Good evening, Bullet Point Nation. I'm Judd Dunning. Welcome to my new weekly show, Unapologetic, our 5-minute weekly weaponized news you can use, mostly to make sure both you and your kids don't get invited to your liberal in-laws' upcoming Easter brunch and diversity-based Easter egg hunt. Putin and Biden exchanged remarks after Biden called Putin a killer and said he would pay. And then Putin said, I just thought of this now. Maybe Joe and I should meet in person, putting Joe's frailty on the world stage. What a brewing, deconstructing debacle. The hardest part about a Putin-Biden debate would be for Putin to find a translator who speaks dementia. Biden had to say no to that debate. It'd be like watching a bear wrestle your grandpa, and the idea of it just keeps me up at night. Well, first of all, according to some knowledgeable sources, it wasn't just Russia, it was also China and Iran, all three of the major sources that we need to impress with projecting strength and not weakness. Maybe Joe should just send his super tough, deep fake hologram to challenge him to do some push-ups, or take him behind the woodshed to beat the hologram hell out of him. What they're doing is they're challenging Joe's weakness. This is dangerous for America. As a lifelong politician, everybody knows that Joe's hands have no calluses and no threat is coming from him except toward his own people. Maybe Putin has just forgotten how to get in touch with his roots and seeks a quick refresher course on Marxism and tyranny from Joe. Maybe he's so impressed with how Joe's been repressing his people with overreach and a barrage of right-stripping legislation that he wants to meet him and slap him on the back and go, good job! This is exactly what Democrats weren't thinking about when they forced him into office. Putin is not just someone who doesn't follow through with what he says. He respected Trump's strength enough to fear it. And talks then, in turn on the world stage, got very tense between China and the U.S. just at the same moment. In our first formal talks when the U.S. called out China for trade practices, human rights violations, and with the Uyghurs and Hong Kong. You got to give China credit. They got nerve. To compare BLM to rounding up Uyghurs, putting them on trains and using them as slave labor, that's like comparing a campfire to a nuke. Yes, they're both hot, but that's where the similarities end. The only other thing they have in common is that Nike supports both. Maybe somebody should remind people that Biden and China have a lot in common. They both like to arrest people and hold them without bail, like our Capitol riots people who need to be freed and we need to pay attention to. We need to find common ground. I think that both the Chinese and the Democrats can agree. They both like re-education camps. We can start there. And what I loved about the Secretary of State Blinken saying that the hallmark of American leadership was that the U.S. is willing to admit its mistakes and confronted its challenges openly and transparently. It was just after that China wanted to mention our recent elections, but they couldn't stop laughing. But it was hard to tell in Chinese. Like, oh, who knows? Were they laughing? Were they making fun of us? Look, we're open and transparent, right? Yeah, we just don't do it on Twitter, Facebook, in public, or the Amazon cloud. That's not happening in the United States of America. American Democrats like to admit its mistakes. Why? So they can see that they can fundraise off of them and exploit them to get votes. It's so much classier than China just putting you in prison or in prison camps. Thanks for coming to Unapologetic, our war on behalf of free speech. And most importantly, never forget the words of the great George Washington. If the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led like sheep to the slaughter. I'm Judd Dunning. Like, follow, and share my show, as well as Michael Loftus and I's show, Bullet Point Nation. You can buy my new book, 13.5 Reasons Why Not to Be a Liberal, on Amazon or on Newsmax at Newsmax/13. You can catch me on the Newsmax Insiders column and catch me on Newsmax Live on Fridays. God bless you. God bless America. God bless television.